questionnaires, what I would recommend to you is design them very carefully. Not so much, first of all, again, start at the end. Think about what you want to know and then decide how you can find out that information. Well, I did that okay, but what I didn't do was I didn't do an evaluative thing, any coherent evaluate. So what I ended up with was hundreds of pieces of paper that I'd got to physically evaluate. So the next time I've used questionnaires, I've built that in the beginning. Yes, do you want to ask a question? You'll have to come to me because I can't bring the mic in.
I just want to see, can you share any parent questionnaire with us? Do you have any slide? I just want.
Yeah. I can share the questionnaire with you. I'm sure I could find it, but if you go on the web and Google parent questionnaires, if you go on to the DFES, just Google DFES, it's called something else now, but it'll come up, and that will take you to various links, various parent sites, and you'll get some. Another good thing to Google, and the DFES do these as well, is student questionnaires, student attitudinal questionnaires. They're good for the students to tell you what they think about schools and their teachers.
When we were talking about assemblies, I was just wanting to ask something is like, which age group do you think we could do it with, to be realistic? Because we are just running the very junior branches. With your experience, I'd like to know that. Can we effectively do it with the students before you came to the governors?
Well, the answer to that is you can do this with any age group. What I did in my school, I had children from 5 to 11, and some of the 5-year-olds were perfectly capable of writing, but many of them weren't. So what I did was I organised for them to draw pictures, and we had symbols, and the older children helped the younger children, and the support assistants in the classrooms helped them. I folded the paper into 3 with the 3 headings, and so they're the ones that the special needs children or the ones that couldn't read or write used pictures. Some children, I think there were about 4 children that couldn't read, write or draw pictures because of disabilities. They had a one-to-one interview with a support assistant or maybe one of the older children, paired them up, did peer mentoring and that kind of thing. If you feel that your school's too big for this process and it would be far too unruly, if you've got a student council, or in my school we had what we called executives. We had 2 executives in each class, and they were called executives because it was a position of huge importance, and it was an initiative that we introduced to address underachievement through lack of self-esteem. Now you'll identify with this, I'm sure. In your classes you've got the high flyers and you've got the special needs children, whatever that means in your class or your school. And then you've got this chunk in the middle, and I was one of these at school, one of these children in the middle. I wasn't brilliant and I didn't have special needs, and I just went plodding on through. I didn't underachieve through lack of self-esteem, but I was in the middle of the group. And if hand on heart, and you don't have to tell me, but you will know that there are days when you have not given some children in your classroom the attention that they've deserved. And these children that suffer from lack of self-esteem will go days and days, and unfortunately weeks, without any attention, and their achievement gets less and less and less because they're just not recognised. But that's another story. That's another initiative that can come into your school improvement plan. So we identified 2 children in each class. We called them executives, and all it was, very, very simply, instead of saying, oh, just give these books out for me, will you please, or can you just give the pencils out? The teacher was conditioned that any jobs, because kids love doing jobs for their teachers, any jobs, any messages, anything at all, wouldn't just be given out randomly. They would be given to these two children. And they were given a very fancy badge, and they were given their badge in assembly, so everybody knew that they were executives. And so everybody identified them, and we agreed as a staff that if you were walking down the corridor or you were anywhere and you saw an executive, they'd have their name on, so you'd say, oh, good morning, how are you? That's all it needs. She knows I exist. She knows that I can breathe and that I'm in her school. And everybody signed up to this. So, and then the next term we would choose someone else. So why am I telling you about executives? Oh yes, I remember. Going back to if you feel this is too unruly to use all the children, and it's a big school, it may well be, you could use that sort of thing. Choose a group of students from each class to work as a group within their class. I mean, I'm inventing this as I'm going on, but that's got endless possibilities for all kinds of different achievements. Does that help? Because I know what you mean. It just gets, it's like Topsy, it just grows and grows and grows. Analysis of documentation. I did that, what there was of it. There weren't very many policies or procedures in place in the school, but what there were, I collected, and I did my own analysis of it. The curriculum policies that there were very, very old, but I gave them to the teachers to evaluate, and told them no names. I don't want any details. I just want what I called an executive summary, and you can use words like rubbish, not good enough, the sort of words that you would never ever use with children. You can use those words, just tell me, so that I know whether I need to work on it or not. And if it's full of those kinds of things, I and we need to work on it. And then it came to, everybody's had their say, so we had a training day. We had, we have these, I don't know whether you do in Pakistan, I think you do, where the teachers have got to come to school but the children don't. Inset days, they've been called all sorts of things, but anyway, training day. So we had this big training day where we all came in, the governors came in. Let me see if I've listed it. No. The governors came in, I invited people from the local authority, I invited a hand-picked group of parents. I didn't open it up generally to parents because it was important that I got parents that would give realistic views and would be supportive of the school. It wasn't an opportunity to knock everybody down, it was an opportunity to build everything up. So I chose a group of parents to come in. Who else did I invited the local community police officer, because as I said, it was in a really tough area, so that person had a stakeholder in our school. Invited everybody and put them into groups. Now then, if you do this, you've got lots of opportunity. As teachers, you all know how important grouping is. Many, many different kinds of ways to group children to do work. It's no different with adults, absolutely none. Whether you're doing a training like this or whether you're doing something much bigger like this. So you could put like people together. So you could put maths people together, the English people together. You could put all the grade 1s teachers together. You could put any amount of combinations of grouping. But what I would you who would be maybe managing this, do it carefully, because this, for me, was probably the most important day in the whole achievement of the school. The work that we did on this day, I kept, and we're going to do a little bit of it in a minute when I stop talking. I kept it, and I was able to refer to it over and over again. when it emerged that we needed to do more and more things. So that's the advice that I would give to those of you who are might be organising this. These were the questions. What are we good at? And I would emphasise, please start with what are we good at? Because I'll tell you what happens, and it's a bit like what happened in here. If you don't, what will happen is the people will focus on what they think they're not good at. And trust me, if you ask a teacher to tell you what they're good at and what they're not good at, the list of what they're not good at will be infinitely longer than what they're good at, and they'll be wrong. A lot of it will be wrong because teachers are very, very hard on themselves. So start with what are we good at. Give it time. This isn't a stage to be rushed. The dialogue, the process is important. It's the most important thing. Then what we're not so good at. What we're not so good at takes quite a lot of courage, and it comes back to this grouping. So to group your people carefully, group them in groups where they will feel safe to share ideas. Because, you know, my staff, they were going through quite a lot here. They'd got a brand new head teacher that was radically changing everything. They didn't know me very well. They didn't know whether they could trust me or not, and they were having to lay their feelings bare about what they felt that they were good at and not so good at. So again, another word of caution there. What do we do that we don't want to do? Well, in my school it was overwhelmingly streaming. Now, I don't know how much of an impact this will have on you, but in the UK in primary schools, primary teachers teach all the subjects. I know that you know that. But in this school, when I took it over, the children were put in sets or streams for maths, English and science. Oh, God. And I couldn't believe it, and I couldn't understand it either. It was very complicated. And it was some organisational thing that some head teacher put in place. Nobody really understood the value of it, but they were just going along with it because that's what they'd always done. This opens up a forum to talk about that. It doesn't mean it's right just because we've always done it, but also it doesn't mean it's wrong. And sometimes when you're writing a school improvement plan, you can get a bit edgy about that kind of thing. Well, we've always